Hello, everybody. Welcome to another ZoukCast episode. Tonight, we will keep a little bit talking about the fusion theme that we started last week. So let's go into the subject because we have a lot to talk about. First of all, Nymph, how are you doing?
Hey, Antonio.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
we started.
How are you?
So let's go into the subject because we have a lot
listening
to talk about.
the video
First
again.
of all,
Somebody of you have the video open.
Antonio.
we started. So let's go into the
Sarita,
because we have a lot listening to talk about.
Sarita, you have the video open.
Have the video open.
Antonio.
Let's
She closed the hangout. Okay, let's wait until she reconnects now. Okay, these things happen, you know. I'm trying to open the Facebook so I can talk to her again in case she don't know how to get back inside. Let me see. So, Nymph, after last week's episode, we spent like 5 minutes after the episode talking about the fusion thing, but from the other point of view.
Yeah.
It was we talked about how some Zoukers were fusing other dance styles, and maybe the dancers on those dance styles don't think that the fusion is made in a proper way.
Yeah, and should they complain to those teachers?
Yeah. So I think that with Sarita today we can address that subject. Do you think so?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, she's a really good contemporary dancer. I saw some videos and pictures. Looks great.
Okay. So let's wait until she gets again in the call. I think she's there now. It was the strangest way to introduce you, like, Sarita, what are you doing with the video? But okay, you're here.
I'm
So
here.
how are you doing, Sarita?
I was trying to work out why I could see you speaking and your face was doing something else, and I was like, what I'm hearing is like so much feedback. I'm sorry about that. Hello.
Don't worry. So, Sarita, we were talking just now with Nymph about last week's episode. We were complaining a little bit from the Zouk point of view about the fusion that some other style teachers and performers are doing with Zouk, especially in sensual bachata. But I guess that could go both ways. Like people dancing another style like you do, you're a contemporary dancer, maybe you could criticize us Zoukers for not doing a proper fusion of your thing in our thing. So what do you think about that? Is there any ugly contemporary fusion that you have seen in Zouk?
Okay, so do you know what? I just appreciate people for their efforts at the end of the day. You know, we're all different, and I think fusions are great. I think it's just being careful about what it is that you're representing, especially if you're somebody at the top that you have a lot of students underneath you. Watching you and seeing what you're doing, and whatever those fusions are, that you're clear about what it is that you're representing, and if you are fusing stuff, that you make that clear what you're fusing. So, you know, in the bachata world, if something, I guess, you know, that's something I've noticed as well. Can you hear me? I've lost your screen.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's just being honest. I think it's just being honest, and that's it. That's all you can do, and you just do your thing. And if you enjoy it and your people enjoy it, then what's the problem? It's just being clear about what it is that you're demonstrating, and that you're not trying to pass it off as something else.
Yeah.
And you know, taking something from another world and not giving that other world credit, or trying to trying to pass on that this is the way that you should do it. That's kind of my opinion on it. Of course, there's fusions that I see, and in my opinion, I don't necessarily think are amazing, but it's not about that, you know.
Yeah. So what's about the feeling that you are trying to portray? What's the minimum level that you should have in order to be able to fuse something into Zouk? Like, for example, let me criticize myself a little bit. I like a lot contemporary, but I never took more than 2 or 3 classes.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So in my shows, I do kind of contemporary-ish moves.
Mm-hmm.
And some people come to me like, oh, I love your show because they are so contemporary. And I say, oh, no. My shows are not contemporary because I haven't studied any contemporary.
Yeah.
But anyway, is that what you should do? Like say, hey, I'm trying to, but I'm not?
I'm sorry, my thing's pinging, and I'm like, turn it off. No, I think you should be clear. I think you should be clear that, you know, that basically you're just taking, that you have a love for contemporary dance, and you like to fuse it with the work you do. But yeah, you're not a professional, and this is just something that you're playing with and creating. It's the same way with me. Like, okay, people know me in the Zouk world, and some people. You know, I don't try and pass myself off to be a great Zouk dancer or even to know all the technicalities, because I don't. I'm somebody that comes in, I have my thing, I'm great at it, and I come into the Zouk world and I try and try and understand your world, try and understand the Zouk a little bit more, and bring my contemporary fusion into that. But even when I go to teach, and I teach a lot of Zouk people, I don't go and try and pretend that I'm going to teach you amazing technique in Zouk, because that would be wrong for me to do that, because actually I don't know enough to be able to say I'm going to give you all the technique for Zouk, even in one style. I'm not experienced enough, and I've never taken the time enough to train myself enough in that way to be able to pass that information on and deliver that as my thing. But what I can do is bring what I do know and educate people how that can influence your Zouk dancing or your bachata dancing or whatever it is that I'm fusing my movement with. It's just been really clear for me about what it is you're doing, and I think you're right. If somebody comes to speak to you and mention that, is just to let them know that, you know, I like contemporary, and I just like to fuse it in, but I'm not a professional. And if you want to see, you can give people references like I would do. Okay, I'm not the, you know, I don't have all the technique, but maybe you should check out this person or check out that person if you really want to understand Zouk more. I would, you know, to just clear.
Okay, so let me ask something to Nymph. Nymph,
Yeah.
do you have in mind one of the last times where you thought, oh, this dance was memorable? Like, I would love to dance again and again with this lady.
Yeah, I had.
So you know, last time it happened to me, it was in the Dutch Congress, and it was with Sarita. You know. So I'm interested in knowing where Sarita comes from. What's her story in her relationship with Zouk?
Okay, so 4 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, I was in town. I just finished doing an audition. I was bored and I had energy left, and somebody had told me about some Brazilian partner dance thing that I should go and check out. And anyway, months and months and months had passed. I was like, I'm going to go. Eventually went down there, and it was Joe and Solange's night in London. And just so happened there was a lot of amazing dancers down there that particular night as well. So I turned up and I was just like, what the is this? Like, why do I not know about this dance? Like, how comes I'm not involved in this, you know? So yeah, that was it for me. I watched and I tried a little bit. People tried to pull me in, and of course, when you're a dancer, people can see you have rhythm and you have a sense of movement and understanding. So they just want to pull you up, but I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like for a long time, I was just completely. Is this censored? I'm like, I'm kind of like keep stopping myself every time I want to say a little swear word or something. But, I was bullshitting a little bit. I was bullshitting, and even now sometimes I do. Because I'm a professional dancer, and that's what I do for a living. But I love Zouk.
Yeah.
So I don't have time to go every week to classes, and also a way of learning for me is not really through going to classes, because I just learn choreography, and actually more than anything, what I want to learn is how to follow. Yes, I need to learn the basics and the steps, which I have done over time, but I don't want to learn choreography, and for me, because I do that for a living, I switch off very quickly because I get bored, and so privates is a better way for me to do that, but I can't afford to have privates all the time. So actually, the way that I learn is through my social dancing, and I just try and listen to what it is and try and figure out what it is. And some people are more willing than others. Some people just want to expect me to know what I'm doing and want me to know, and some people are okay. Are you like, can you repeat that again, please? Just try that again, just so I can kind of get the feeling. But sorry, I rambled then. I can't remember what.
No, but it's okay. I asked you about that. The question was how was that you met Zouk, but actually after like 2 years ago, I didn't know you. But I knew you from a show that you made here in Barcelona in the Danza Brasil Congress, and you did a contemporary show there. But later you went into the Brazuca show. How was that? How was the relationship with all the Zouk professionals? How went all the musical thing?
Was great. I mean, for me, it was like it was a really great way in for me, because I was just thrown in the deep end. I was this contemporary dancer, and by then I'd already kind of been dancing 2 years, but again, just learning from social dancing, and that's it really. A couple of odd classes, and a few people had chosen to kind of give me some notes and stuff. But I knew Braz already because he was in London at the time. And I performed a few times, a few contemporary things for him on his nights. So he knew that I was a professional dancer, and he knew that I loved like dancing Zouk and Lamba Zouk. I'd say more Zouk because that's actually probably more the direction, because it's a lot easier for me and it's more in my world as it exists. Lamba Zouk was a lot more technique for me to figure out. But anyway, they were going to do a workshop to see if this idea would work to create this big show around his life story, and I got invited along because even though I wasn't like a top partner dancer, we had a good rapport, we had good energy, good banter, and for Braz that's quite an important thing. And I guess they also realized that maybe bringing me in, they could use some of my skills as well to contribute to the company as it was back then. And then it wasn't quite a year, but eventually we did a show within a couple of weeks. And then eventually we got funding, and then that was it. The show was on the road. So when I saw you in Barcelona, all of the cast members at that time were invited to go there, and then we were going straight on to Malta to do a training program, which was part of the production period for creating the actual main core of the show. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was really the beginning, I guess, and I guess that's where people started to know me because of Brazuca. Definitely owe a lot of my fast-growing recognition because of Brazuca, and also because of the contacts I then gained through Brazuca.
Yeah. So what's your current involvement in the Zouk scene back in London? What do you do there?
In London, I provide, in the Zouk scene, I provide beginners contemporary classes, mm-hmm. and they are geared more for Zouk dancers. So from my experiences and from what I see in the scene, wherever that may be, I transfer my skills that I think are beneficial for the dance to my students who are dancing Zouk. The classes are not necessarily limited to just Zouk people. It can be anybody who's a very physical person, or somebody who does other forms of partner dance. Is also quite attractive for them. But because I'm in the Zouk scene already, and people have seen me do my contemporary work, and there's a lot of desire for people to learn more contemporary and understand how to use their body more. I think then after seeing what I do, then they realize, okay, so they come along to my classes and they learn about how to hold their posture, how to be aware of their center, because in Zouk, I think it's probably, from what I know and what I see, probably one of the most experimental partner dances, social partner dances out there. Which is amazing, and I love it. I'm like, wow, like people who just sit down at the computer doing a lawyer or whatever all day, and then all of a sudden they come to this night and they start doing all these crazy stuff. Like, it's amazing. I love it. But also, I think there's a safety factor in that I think sometimes when people are going to classes that maybe there's a club afterwards and it's not a proper school, there's not a lot of time to teach about technique of how to hold your center, how to control your body and understand somebody else's body, and even correct transfer of weight. Of course, you know about transfer of weight with your partner, but actually how effectively to transfer your weight into the ground and to elevate you into the next thing. Dynamics, rhythms, all these different things that I learned as a student, and also I've continued to develop as a professional. So I break things down technically. I do a lot of technique that I think informs them, helps them to be conscious of when they need to use their center, because sometimes as a woman you can be thrown into something and you're so not expecting it, and it hurts. You know? So I think that just making people more, and the same for guys. Sometimes a girl will throw her head back and the guy's not even asked for that. Yeah. And all of a sudden he's finding himself in some uncompromising position and his back's pulled, and so it's just making people more aware of how to use their body in a safe way. And then on top of the technique and all of that, then we get to the creative side of things, where I just want people to let go. So they learn the steps, they learn the base steps of Zouk. But then on top of that, what do you want to do with that? Are you going to just be a carbon copy of what you've learned, or are you going to start experimenting within that technique and that base and see where you can go with that? How you might play with the musicality, or how you might play with the space and the rhythms and the dynamics, and just coming from that kind of angle, really, and hopefully trying to make things safer and more creative and hopefully more inspiring for the individual, that they can become more creative, so they have more power and they're not just doing each step exactly the same as they learnt it initially. They kind of feel empowered to be able to play with that within reason, still keeping the base foundation, of course.
So I guess that the question that follows is, since you were a previous professional dancer before meeting Zouk, what was the theme that got you stuck into Zouk? It was this experimental side of Zouk, or was anything else?
Yeah, it was the experimental side. It was the fact that I love circles. I love circular movement. So doing all this stuff with the spine and the head was already something that was familiar to me and that I enjoyed doing anyway, naturally within my repertoire of movement if I was asked to move. But also, I mean, pretty soon after I discovered Joe and Solange's place, within a few months, I just so happened to be going to Brazil for 3 months. And a friend of mine that I'd met there, Amanda Furlong, she was like, oh, I'm going to this congress, like this was Berg's Congress for New Year's. And I was like, well, I don't have anything planned, so maybe I'll just come and join you. Didn't have a clue what I was like. I knew it was going to be fun, but like when I got there, that just blew my mind. Like, and seeing all the top dancers there, a lot of amazing teachers and performers, and also just getting the opportunity to dance socially as well. For me, nighttime was like, that's when I learned. Get on the dance floor and I just don't stop. I just try and pick up as much information as possible. So that was like combined with discovering the classes and also experimenting there. But then I think going to Berg's and being surrounded by a load of people that were on a much higher level, obviously because it's from Brazil and there's a lot more people there doing it. they have a lot more schools. So that just took the whole thing to another level of what else was possible, and also informed me and my body more on where I could go with this. So that really was the whole kind of starting point for me. And then from that point onwards, that was it. Like, it's just, that's it. This is it. So I still do a lot of contemporary and street and commercial, and I still do all my other work on the side. And then wherever possible, I try and you know, bring the Zouk into it. And at the minute, like, I'm trying to create little bits of a little bit of a tour, and everywhere I'm going, I'm like, let me see if they've got Zouk there. Let me see if there's any kind of Zouk family there that I can kind of latch into and see what's happening. Yeah. Of course, I was kind of lucky in a way that Brazuca came around at the time that it did, and that they wanted to work with me, and which, you know, gave me access to all these great dancers, and of course I have a lot of friends now in the Zouk world, and also Zouk Lambada world, who have inspired me and given me bits of information to continue with.
Nice. So, Nymph, I remember that maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a conversation going on Facebook that Jan Carlos started about being a good lead. You know, like
he's amazing.
How a leader should be. Like, he should lead in a way that the follower doesn't have any chance to be wrong, or should the leader be more inviting rather than leading? Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah, I know this conversation. Yeah. Still, I think if you lead, the leading has to be clear. And if you invite someone or just give attention, that's not completely leading. That's parts leading. Like, okay, I lead you this way, and then I let you go so you can just improvise by yourself. So that's not 100% leading. It's maybe 50%.
Because I sort of don't agree totally with you, because for me, you can invite in a clear way. Like, you can sort of 50% lead, 50% invite. So you expect the follower to give you something in return of your invitation. So not every lead will be the same with different followers, because you give this percentage of margin that the follower can have. But that's my opinion, and I would love to know Sarita's opinion about this. Like, should the leader be more precise on the leading and be clear, or should the leader be more inviting, or maybe in a different stage or with different partners should be different? What do you think about that?
I think the lead should always be clear. That's important. But I think it's a choice. I think we all like to move differently, and we all have different ideas about how we believe to be the best way, and I think that's okay. And I think when I try, it is difficult. When I dance with a guy, I do try to respect their lead, but also I personally want to play with what I can do inside of that lead.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, after a bit, it can become boring. You know, or maybe one dance I might choose to completely just be with that person. Normally, when I first dance with somebody, I try to, unless I get excited by the music or whatever, and I know the person very well. But when I first dance with somebody, I really try and listen a little bit more, and I try to hold back, because I just love to go. That's just my personality.
Yeah.
So I know I have to be careful of that. And then once I try and feel out how that person will be with me experimenting more, if that makes sense, within their lead. But I don't think there's a right or there's a wrong. I think, yes, it's right to be clear with your lead. But I don't think that you should just dance 100% and follow the lead the whole time, or 50% of the time you do this and 50% of the time you do that. I think it's negotiable. I think you have to listen to your partner. It's a two-way thing. And even though the man is the lead, it's still a two-way thing. We're still joining forces, and we're coming together to enjoy dancing together. So it's not just about you, and it's not just about me. So we have to respect that of each other, and that's my personal opinion. But I do understand. I do see what you're saying, Nim. I do, and I get it. But I just think we have to be a little bit flexible. And sometimes I like to challenge myself. Like if I'm going to be dancing with a guy, okay, I'm going to choose for this dance. I'm going to be really strict, and I'm just going to try and follow every single thing about that this guy gives me. And then, after a few dances, I go, right, okay, we've danced your way now a few times. Now let me see how I can add some flavor inside of that. Because is it not interesting also for the lead to sometimes, for their mind to be opened up to the possibilities of what else can be created within a lead? So it's not always an automatic creation. You're not always creating exactly the same thing every time. I do this move and it goes like this and it finishes like that. Like, what if that person then opened your mind to see in another way that then, of course that happens.
Yeah.
Of course it happens. It's inevitable. That's how people create new stuff. You can have it.
But what I mean by clear leading is if the leading is clear, so I can give you like a movement. I would like to do some like a move, and I give you this clear leading, this movement, and within this movement you can put your own input, how you do this movement. That's the way I think the leading has to be clear, but still like you can make it also in your own way you feel, the way you would like to do this movement. So that part should be free.
So more or less we agree then, because
I think so.
what I'm trying to teach to my students is like there's not 100% accurate leading, but you have to be clear what you want, but then there's a margin of the freedom of the follower to do it in their own way and introduce their own interpretation of the leading, right?
Yeah, and even if the follower do something like certainly like improvising and doing something different, the leader should be also aware of like, hey, I can improvise, I can do, and I can take this movement and I can go, along with this. I think that's a nice way to play with each other.
And that's, for me, that's a partnership. You're working together there, and that's when there's possibility.
I have a question to Sarita. Why did you choose Zouk, not sensual bachata, or salsa?
It's really funny because I saw salsa. Obviously, salsa is the biggest partner dance, as far as I'm aware.
Or kizomba. A lot of people are going from Zouk to kizomba.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that do kizomba. But I mean, in terms of like the whole world knowing about, if you talk about partner dance, the first thing they say, oh, like salsa. Okay. It's the most known. It's the most done. It's there's the most classes around the world in salsa. I would, as a social dance, and that people are aware of, I would say salsa. So I always used to watch salsa and be like, oh my god, like back then when I became aware of salsa that I wanted to do it, I was very much training hardcore, 5 days a week, hours and hours and hours of training. Then when I left college, I was working for companies and I was working really, and I never had time or the energy left by the time I'd finished work to go and do classes. But I really love salsa, and I was determined that at one point I was going to become this amazing salsa dancer and use all my contemporary knowledge and experiences to kind of be amazing. And it never really happened. It never really happened because actually for a long time I really found it difficult to let go and be led. Yeah. But also salsa is it's very pa pa. Not always. Yes. Got the Cuban styles and stuff like that, but in London. Or a lot of places, the Cuban is a little bit less common, even though it's there.
Yeah.
When you first seek out salsa, you're going to be finding onto or the more kind of show type stuff. And there was just something that that made it a bit hard work, in a way. And I don't know. I just think when I discovered Zouk, totally made sense. It was like, this is for my body, and I understand this language. Even if I don't understand what my feet are supposed to be doing right now, my body really understands this language, and it makes sense. And the music was current to me, and I like the music. I mean, it's a whole selection of different music throughout Zouk. In general, I really like the music.
Yes, yeah, me too.
And there was a good community kind of feel within it, because it's a little bit smaller. It's there's a little bit more of a family feel to it.
Connection, yeah.
Yeah, although I think, you know, we're onto something here, and it's interesting actually as it's growing, the complications in those relationships of family that start to be affected and break down, and you know, who's right and who's wrong, and who should do this and who should do that, and you should do that because you've affected this person, and blah blah blah, and all those politics. But yeah, I mean, it just felt more natural for me. Makes sense.
If you like to dance, or you used to dance a lot lambada Zouk, but if you dance with people that are dancing Rio style Zouk or Zouk, isn't it hard to find the right connection?
You mean when you're changing different styles of Zouk?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. The thing that I was saying this the other day and I really now just want to find a partner and just train in one style, or not necessarily one style, but I just want to train with one person and explore. Just learn a craft with one person, like learn what they have to give me, bring what I have to bring to the table, and really just home in on one style, whether that be something that's more geared in their direction of what they do, or whether it be something that we choose to go together into. But yeah, I mean, it is difficult, and for me especially, I feel difficult because I actually, only in this trip when I was doing the Brazuca festival that I actually started to learn a little bit more. I'm letting away my secrets right now, but yeah, like some of the differences and stuff like that, because in London we kind of generally have a general, you know, we have your Lamba Zouk and you have your Zouk. But for me, I don't know. I don't feel there's a real big difference. I can't say the word, but difference. You don't really see. I don't feel like I've been educated much on the differences of those dances. Whereas when you go other places, it's very clear what those styles are. So when I'm going to congresses and stuff like that, it takes me a little while. Like I say, have to really just pull back for a bit and try and understand the style of that given person. And only now, actually, I feel like, okay, I can kind of work out what that style is. But before, I didn't have a clue. Everything I've done initially for a long time has been built upon instincts and just trying to listen and trying to feel. And obviously, maybe watching that person, if it's a particular guy, especially if it was a teacher or a lead person, watching them and watching what it is about them, how they move, what they tend to do, and just trying to figure it out. But it is different, and I can imagine for people who are non-dancers, professional dancers, I mean, who don't specialize in movement as much, how confusing it can be as well.
I think Antonio is having a problem with his connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So the other thing was, yeah, I noticed the same because I used to then, I came also from the salsa, and then I changed, when I met Zouk, I changed completely to Zouk. I used to dance Zouk Love, Rio style Zouk, and then at certain point it gets boring because it's all choreo.
Yeah.
So I went to Spain and I took classes from Daniel Letitia, like Zouk. And then when I came back, I started dancing with other dancers. And if I dance with people that are dancing Rio style Zouk or Lambada, you feel this connection different. Like, oh my God, oh, I know you are dancing Lambada. I can feel you are dancing Rio style. So that kind of connection I can feel. But I think for the follower and for the leaders, it's like difficult always to feel like, hey, what can I do with this kind of connection? And in my dance, because I like contact improv, so I use a lot of this spiral kind of dances.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people aware of this energy that goes around, like pulling away from each other. And I use in my dance, I try to use it a lot. But if I dance with people that are used to dance choreo, they are like, oh my God, what's going on? What should I do? And I always try to explain them like, okay, just relax, just let yourself go. You know, let this movement of the circle, just let it go. And when I dance with people that are used to
We
dance,
must dance, by the way. Carry on, sorry. And then?
Yeah, no, and when I dance people that are followers that dance lambada, they have like a harder connection. I can do a lot of crazy stuff because they are having all this, you know, this like this proper connection. Yeah, so that's always like playing with.
Okay, so we had some technical problems. The connection totally broke and the broadcast was stopped. And we will try to solve it like some way by mixing both videos or something like that. I don't know how, but we will continue the conversation and just finish because I didn't like to not say goodbye to everybody. And Nymph, for what I saw on the video that it's now on YouTube. You were talking about the Lamba Zouk followers and their strong connection.
Yeah. It's not a strong connection, but when I came from Spain after the classes with Daniel Tisha, and then I started dancing with Rio style dancers or Zouk dancers and with Lambada, I could feel the connection. Like you could feel the difference. And the way I'm dancing in this spiral techniques, I could do more with people that are dancing lambada because they have like it's not a strong hard connection, but it's more like, hey, this frame, it's constant, you know. That's the difference between the Rio style dancers and the lambada. So I could do more with this, like people having a proper frame with this kind of connection than people that having this loose kind of connection, and they're moving out by themselves, you know. Sometimes it's disturbing, like you lead someone and then it go by themselves, like
I'm laughing because that's probably sometimes what happens with me when I go back to dancing with the lambada people. Like, what are you doing?
Okay. So, guys, anything else that we didn't address that you want to address? Or
yeah, about the fusion with different dances. I think when you do social dancing and you fuse with other style, it's okay to do it, like even if it's not proper or not okay, you can do it during the social dance. But if you are a professional dancer and you try to do it in a show, even if you are not contemporary dancer or hip hop dancer or ballet dancer, but as long as you have the movement or the thing that you are copying, as long as it's clear, I think it's okay to do it.
Yeah.
Even for non-professional performance, like
yeah. So that way people see that the movement is clear, so they can see it's contemporary movement, and they come to you and say, hey, are you a contemporary dancer? Because it's clear. It's not like you're doing something and you saw them and you try to copy, but it's in a wrong way. You know, that's not proper. But if you copy it and you do it in a safe way and it's clear, you ask people that are professional dancers, like, hey, this movement I'm using it, is it clear, is it proper? And when they say, yeah, this is okay, then it's okay.
It's a fine line. It's a really fine line because I mean, what I see more than anything that's been fused into the Zouk, not that there's lots of things being fused into it, and of course maybe it pops out to me more because I'm from the contemporary dance world and there's a lot of it, but contemporary dance is actually so broad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really difficult to say that's right and that's wrong.
Yeah.
What I can say is your weight is in the wrong place, or you know, your knee was facing in that direction and your toe was in that direction, and you're going to mash up your knee, like, you know, things like that. But in terms of like the style of it, it's for contemporary anyway. It's a grey line, and also when you're fusing already, it becomes a grey line anyway, because then it's something else. It's not one thing and it's not the other to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. You need to be clear about what it is that you're trying to represent within that show, within that performance. But it's difficult.
Okay, so I think that we covered all that we wanted to cover today with Sarita and even with the accidents and your problems. So Sarita, thank you very much for being here, for sharing your experiences and your knowledge and wisdom. And also, I'm looking forward so much to see you in a few weeks and dance again.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure speaking to you both, and I look forward to seeing you both on the dance floor somewhere very soon.
Soon, yes.
See you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
See you next week. I don't remember if we have an episode close. I think so that we have, but I don't remember if we are talking about the islands or.
Yeah, is it Heaven on Earth?
I don't remember. So maybe I don't say anything, and we will announce on Facebook like every week we do. Mm-hmm. So Nymph, thank you also for being here with me every week, and see you next week.
All right, see you next week.
Okay, and for everybody, this was the accidental ZoukCast of today, and I hope next week we don't have so many problems. That's all for today, and see you.
Peace.
Yeah.
That's done. Brilliant. Well, it was nice to meet you anyway. We're off now, right?
Yeah, it's off.
Now.